This video is sponsored by Lowe's. Hi there, my name is Nils with Learn to DIY, and today we're going to be turning these 8 cedar fence pickets and 1 2x4 into this modern planter box. The best part is we're going to do the whole thing for just 30 bucks, and we're only going to use 3 tools. Right here, we've got a drill, a driver, and a circular saw. When we're all done, I'm going to give you the plans for free, and I'm even giving away the tools. Sound good? Let's jump right in. All right, first things first, let's open up these tools. Now, again, you really only need 3 tools to do this. We've got a cordless impact driver, a cordless drill, and a 6.5-inch circular saw. Now, this set that I've got right here is actually only $3.99. This is a brand new set, like I said, that I will be giving away. This is on sale right now, down from the normal price of $4.49, because this is 20-volt max set, which means it's brushless. This will last you for years and years and doesn't have the wear that a brushed set would. And it comes with 2 5-amp-hour batteries and a charger, all for $399. Be sure to check that out. I love getting a good deal on tools, and this is a great set that I can honestly recommend and say you're going to be happy with this if you get it. You can do not only this project, but a gazillion others with these 3 tools. Now, I'm going to start with the fence pickets. These are really easy, and a lot of these, in fact, this whole section here is just really simple, straight 90-degree cuts. One of the easiest ways to make all of these cuts cleanly is to use some rigid foam. So I'll just lay my fence pickets and boards down on this. I'll set my blade depth to be about 1/4 of an inch below the bottom of the board and make my cuts. And this is also typically where I'll break out my speed square for 2 things. One, I'm going to use it to mark my line for me to follow. That makes it really easy, and because of that crow's foot, I can see exactly where that line ought to be. Then with that in place, I'll put my speed square right up against the board, and then I will use that to get my measurement of exactly where that cut needs to be. Luckily, that's pretty easy work making those straight cuts, so that takes care of all of this section up here. Next, I'm going to do our 2 specially cut boards down here, and this is how we take full advantage of these pickets by cutting them at a 45 in some cases to do our wrapped corners. So in order to do that, we're going to set our saw to a 45-degree bevel. Now the math for that is that we need to actually make a line at 2 3/8 of an inch from one edge and then cut away from that line. Then I need to use a straight edge to be able to mark my line across there. All right, I just caught myself here, and you might do this sometimes too. I did 2 3/8, 2 3/8, and 1 3/8 over here. So measure twice, cut once. I wear a shirt that says I only measure once, but if you look at it, it's got cut marks through it and it's all off. So now that I've got a nice solid line on here, I'm gonna make my cut, and the 2 3/8 again is the shorter side, so I wanna make sure my blade cuts away from that 2 3/8. Okay, so we've got very clean cut there. Like I say, not totally perfect because I freehanded it, but does a pretty nice job at getting both sides as close as possible. Time to do the next side. You've seen me multiple times referring back to the plans on this, and that's because the plans are all available, again, for free in our DIY community. If you want to just purchase them and skip the community part, you're welcome to do that. I'll put links in the description. But if you want to get these absolutely free, join the community and I'll have a link to them there. The first thing we're going to do with our 2x4 is now to cut it just the same way we cut that last picket. We're going to cut it in half lengthwise because every single piece of our 2x4 only needs to be half its thickness. So we're going to follow the patterns that we have on our plans right here, and I'm just going to cut this all the way down. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you want to win the 3 tools that I'm using here, the drill, driver, and circular saw, you can join our DIY community. I'll put links in the description below if you want to check that out. We'll be giving that away to a member of the community based on the guidelines that we put there. So feel free to join the community, enter the contest to win, and maybe these could be yours. Once we've got all of our pieces cut out, this next step is 100% preference. It's totally optional. So if you want to, you can sand everything nice and smooth. Now on the previous boxes that I've done, in fact, I've got a couple of them that have been sitting out in my front yard for 9 years, and they still look great today. Now on those ones, I chose not to sand anything. I left that nice rough cedar texture that the pickets already had, and I've been happy with that. This one, I'm gonna try to shake it up, do it a little bit different, and I'm gonna try to get a nice smooth finish on everything. So again, Completely optional, but if you want to go for this, time to get some sanding done. For the black sections of our planter box, we're just going to use some matte spray paint for this. Now, I went with some really inexpensive stuff. I think I'm going to put some coating of some water seal over top of it just to help it stay a little bit more durable throughout the many seasons that we have here in the state of Utah. But I highly recommend doing at least 2 coats, if not 3, on pretty much everything that gets this black paint. Another alternative that you can use is a very dark stain, because that will get into the wood a little bit more, and if it gets nicked or dinged or anything like that, it's less likely to show the natural color of the wood through it. I do recommend, even if you don't sand the rest of the box, that maybe you sand these parts that are going to be black, because that'll help the paint to have a nice smooth surface to stick to. For the mitered corner pieces, I would highly recommend that you paint the insides of those, or the backs of them a little bit, about 2 or 3 inches up. That way, if those feet are showing underneath, they'll be black, no one will notice them, it'll look like the whole thing is painted black, and it'll look a little bit more like a black metal frame. For fasteners, make sure to use only external rated screws. The screws to put the frame together should be about 3 inches long, and the rest of the screws will be between 1.5 and 2 inches long. Most of the shorter screws will be completely hidden, so the color really doesn't matter. We'll talk more in a bit about the screws we use to fasten the black parts to the box. Now that everything is cut out, optionally sanded, and painted, we're now ready to start the assembly of the frame. And the first thing we're going to do is just this rectangle here. This serves as the main body, and this is the bottom shelf that all of our dirt will sit on. So with that, we're going to need to do some pre-drilling for pretty much everything we do here. One very important rule to remember when pre-drilling is the size of the drill bit that you use. Getting the right size pre-drill screw is as simple as getting it as large as you possibly can, while still being able to see only the threads, not the shaft of the drill bit behind the screw itself, like you see here. And then all we really need here is 1 screw right in the middle. And then you can use your driver to sink that screw. This is where having a drill and a driver shine. This is why you almost always see these sold together. Your drill is for pre-drilling and getting things done to start, and then your driving is to finish at home. Your driver will drive in that screw, do a great job, and has all the torque that you need. This way you don't have to swap bits in between every movement. You just have one assigned to each job. I'm making sure here to get the screw head countersunk so that it's not sticking up above the surface. With our frame assembled, we're now ready to put on our initial floor here, our deck as it were. So first I'm going to just lay out our 6 deck boards here, and you're going to have a gap of probably about 3/4 of an inch between each of these, and then that spacing should work out pretty well for you. Put all these in place. And just like with the other assembly, we're going to pre-drill each of these, 2 screws per side, and then drive our fasteners in. So what we're going to do is put this on its side, put one of our pieces in here in place, and then all we have to do is drill from the bottom side right through to the top. So for our cladding, we're going to start by putting our long pieces on first, and we're going to do this from the top down. So we're going to start right up here at the top, and you may need to wiggle these feet a little bit if they're a little bit loose. We want to get it to where they line up right on the edge on both sides, and then drive those in. Always pre-drill here, we want to avoid splitting. As I put these on, let's make sure that you have your smooth side out and drive 2 screws in each board. At this point, we are going to put our last board in place right here. And you're going to want to take note of where the screws are in each location so that you avoid hitting those. You actually have about 2.5 inches of play over here that you can work with because your corner pieces are going to cover that up, but just be careful not to move so far in that the screws become visible after the corner pieces are installed. Now that we've got the sides all the way in place, it's time to put our smaller feet right inside the corners and drive at least 2 screws in each one. And just like before, we're going to make sure we stay within that about 2.5 inches so that everything gets covered up afterward. Now keep in mind, right now this is upside down, and that's exactly how we want it. That way everything is gonna line up nice and flush right along the top edge, which is exactly what we're going for. So we're gonna grab a couple of our pre-painted corner pieces with the miters on the side, put two of them together and see what we've got. Now you'll notice on here that the joint is actually very forgiving because we've painted the inside a little bit black. That makes all the difference when we do that. Now when it comes to installing these guys, I want to make sure to use something that's going to hold on really snug because we've got a lot of weight riding on these. Mostly it's going to be supported by the other mini foot that we'll put here, but the more strength we give it, the better. So that's why I'm using these little guys here. These are called wafer heads, and as you can see, the bottom of them is totally flat. Now I am of course going to pre-drill everything, and the first and most important thing I do though is just to get a nice tight joint before I pre-drill anything. And this is another area where it might be good to use a clamp to hold this all in place before we start drilling anything. I want to be sure to thank Lowe's for sponsoring this video. Because of their generosity, I was able to purchase this kit that I'm giving away with all of the 3 tools with it. But also, they have their Springfest sale going on right now where you'll find all kinds of products for sprucing up the yard and doing some spring cleaning on sale at great prices. This is a pretty exciting sale because they're marking down power tools and mulch and yard equipment and all kinds of things that you would use on a regular basis and probably need to buy anyway. They've got it on sale right now for you. Check out that link in the description or scan the QR code on screen here so that you can save some serious cash on your spring cleaning and sprucing up. Not to mention building cool things like planter boxes. Next up, we've got these little guys that go into each corner and they're painted black. They should be painted black on at least 2 of the sides. I painted all 6 sides just to be safe, and those can sit right in there. Let's get these dropped in. And let's just make sure here. Oh, okay, that's what we were looking for. With these in place, all we need to do is fasten them down, and then we're ready to do any sealing or finishing that you want to do on this. In order to cover up our screw heads, just a little dab of paint, same paint we used on everything else. So I'm just going to hit these real quick with a little bit of this paint. I'm going to put this to capture a little bit of overspray here. And when it dries, especially because I've gone with a matte finish, it actually looks just like the rest of it. We're now going to use fabric liner to line the inside of the box, and you'll notice I left this at a little bit shallower depth than you might be able to, and that's because we don't typically need about 16 inches of soil in there. For this design, I'm keeping it at about 10 inches, which is typically more than enough soil for all of the roots of whatever you're going to put in here. Using some black landscape cloth, you can line the inside, staple it down, and make sure to cut a few holes for drainage at the bottom. From there, you can fill the box with gardening soil or potting soil, and then put in your plants of choice. Our planter box is now complete. If you have any questions about any of this process, or you want to share pictures of the planter box that you built, you can show those in our DIY community with links right down here. That's also where you can get the free plans for this, and I'd love to see it in the DIY community. Now, if you want to learn a little bit more about a smaller planter box that I did with a little more decorative flair, you can check that video out right up here. I'm Nils with Learn to DIY. Thanks for watching.